Welcome back to another episode of Talon Talk. Whatever your listening preference, you can find our feature interviews on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, and of course on UNFOspreys.com. Don't miss our chats with student athletes, coaches, alumni, and Ospreys in the pros. Now, let's get to today's episode. Welcome back. It's another edition of Talon Talk. Right now we have PJ Kotan or Patrick, depending on who he's talking to. Might get a different name. Thanks for being on.
Yeah, no problem. How have you been? I've just, been enjoying myself whilst I've gotten back and, coming into my sophomore year all the way from Australia. Just ready to get back into studying biology again and, getting back into the program and the life before I had here.
Sure. You gave a quick introduction to yourself right there, but a little bit more for the listener. When did you come to UNF? I remember right in your initial signing release, after hearing from Matt that you're getting signed. We haven't had a lot of Australians historically. Just give a quick background of yourself, where you're from.
So I signed last year in, I don't even remember when, but it was definitely last year. And, in a little, not a little town, but in a pretty big town in Gold Coast, Australia. It's a very beautiful place, actually. It's very similar to here with the weather-wise. We've got the beach, you've got nice weather, you've got it all. So I don't feel too far away from home, actually, which is good. I don't really get homesick that often.
Yeah, growing up in Australia and playing tennis, it definitely, tennis has a different value to the country depending on where you are in the world. Growing up in Australia, had you ever expected to go to the States to play collegiately?
Not really, no. I think it's always talked about and pushed to the side. And, when it did come up, I was a bit timid, not sure what I was going to do. But, I would recommend this to anyone. Like, coming here, my first year was just amazing and I really enjoyed it. And yeah, I would go home and tell everyone to go. Like, it's probably going to be the best 4 years of your life and you're going to miss out on it when you do finish your 4 years. So yeah, I really enjoyed it.
How about most of your classmates growing up, most of your teammates playing tennis, going to school, those that were involved in tennis in Australia, did have others gone to play in the United States?
Very handful of people I know that have gone, and some much older, some that have come back actually that have finished. I think once I went to college and I kind of found a few more people that actually went, whereas before I went there was a little bit less. Like, I didn't really know who went and too much information. I guess that's why I was a bit hesitant as well, because I just didn't have that type of background and the background information on how college tennis works and all that stuff. But yeah.
So you end up getting in touch with North Florida. What was that process like? How did you come to the decision that this was the right step for you? Because a lot of tennis players advise not to go to college if you want to play professionally, and there might be some that do.
Yeah, well, the process that I got here was I started a bit late with my, process of looking at colleges because I still wasn't quite sure. And I had a few contacts at the National Academy in Australia and they kind of helped me, take the next step. And I had a few offers there, but, number one for me was location and coach as well. I mean, coach definitely, but you want to be in a good place. You don't want to be somewhere miserable and you're going to hate it for the next 4 years. You want to be somewhere what you're used to, like I am now in this nice warm weather. And Coach Lucas is amazing. Like, he will take anything aboard and help you with it. And so I think it just two things came together and it was perfect. But definitely back home, there is a bit of unknown about college, and a lot of people don't advise it. But I think it also depends on the person and how they want to develop as a tennis player. Some are late bloomers, and you have examples like John Isner, Kevin Anderson, and Steve Johnson, who went to college and they're now top 100 players. And it's extremely difficult in tennis. So there's no right pathway for one player. There's different ways to get to top 100. It's just what you think's best for you, I guess.
Yeah, and that's an important thing that you touch on right there. Just making your way in collegiate tennis, because you have to do everything. Obviously, you have a coach, but you have to do everything yourself. You have to stay healthy. If you can't play, you miss a tournament at a certain time of year, that's going to hurt your ranking and you fall behind. And Isner and Anderson both, one's an SEC guy, one's a Big Ten guy. That's pretty rare too, but they've had great careers. So it definitely does happen. Speaking of guys that have played professionally, I know I reached out to Bart, Coach Van Leechson, and Coach Lucas, talking, hey, what are some stories on the team? And they pitched that you got a chance to train with Bernard Tomic. For those who don't know who that is, he's got well over 40 wins, I think, in major play, quarterfinalist. How'd that happen?
So I was actually hit at the Brisbane International 1 year, maybe 2 years ago now. And one of the head coaches at my club came up to me and was like, hey, Bernard Tomic. It was actually Paul Hanley at doubles. He won the Brisbane International doubles like a very long time ago. Like he was 17 in the world at one point. Like I wasn't going to say no, of course. And yeah, we slowly started hitting, and we kind of just gelled, I guess, and we kept everything quite business related. And it was good. He gave me a few tips, and I unfortunately left for college, or I went traveling somewhere, so we stopped hitting, and then again we started hitting again around that when Brisbane International was around. So I had to leave again to come back to college, and then I went back when COVID hit, and we started hitting properly, and for a few months straight as well. And yeah, he gave me a lot of tips and pointers on how I should be playing, and yeah, I thought it was a great experience, one that I'll never forget.
Definitely a big name in Australian tennis. Interesting, he's European, but by birth, but moved to Gold Coast. Leighton Hewitt, obviously Rod Laver, big Australian tennis names. But do you have a personal favorite in the professional tennis ranks?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, I think the obvious answer is going to be Federer, but I also like the enigma of Nick Kyrgios, and just like how unpredictable he is. And as an Australian, I know he's done some not so great stuff, but looking at his tennis alone, I mean, the guy is just pure talent. And I try and base on my game off of him, and because I mean, he wins matches, and that's what matters the most anyway. As long as he's winning, then it doesn't matter. So
yeah, no, that was another big name that I left out for Australian tennis. I know when I send out questionnaires for incoming tennis players, who's your favorite? A lot of them say Kyrgios as well. So
yeah.
you're not alone there. People do like his flair. do like his flair. But going back to training, what are some of those things that you picked up with playing with Bernard?
Well, once you get to that stage, I think technique kind of takes a step back. You should already have that kind of foundation, and it's more the mental side and your tennis IQ. And Tomic was 16 when he made it. Like you have to have a huge tennis IQ. Like you have to understand the game to be able to make it at 16 years old, to be playing the Australian Open at 16 years old even. Like, so just listening to him and what he has to say. Sometimes in the beginning, I'd indirectly ask him questions just to kind of, because I didn't know him that well. So I'd try and pick his brain a little bit. And then as we got closer and closer, I would kind of ask him, like, what do you think this part of my game is? And it was just more like that, like just trying to figure out like what it takes to get to that top 100 level. And I think that helped me a lot, because I feel like he has one of the highest tennis IQs, even though he might say some not so great stuff off the court. But on the court, when you watch him play, like the guy doesn't hit the ball that big, but he wins matches. And it's just like, well, like, what do you do different to everyone else,
What's it like to hit with a guy? He's 6'4", 6'5". What's it like to receive? When that's coming at you.
I couldn't figure out in the first two practices, like, do I stand all the way back? Because then he would start hitting angles, and then I'd be out of balance. Do I stand in? And then he would just start smacking it at my body, and then I would just be jammed. But then you slowly start to get used to it. I mean, it's still a very tough serve to return, especially, he has a lot of feel up here. Like it's hard, but you get through it, and you have to figure it out as a tennis player as well. And that comes down to your tennis IQ of figuring out, and just your problem solving skills as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
So was it a lot of, were you getting some one-on-one predominantly, or was it kind of group stuff as well? Because I know he does coaching extensively, and he's kind of transitioned a little bit of from playing as much as he used to.
No, it was just one-on-one. It was just, yeah, me and him mostly.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
As far as some of the advice and things that he would tell you, is there something that stands out that he said? And it might not be purely tennis related, but was there some piece of advice that he said that you've kept?
Um, it's just to go out there and, like I feel like I have a lot of passion for the sport, and it kind of, it's a pro and a con. Like sometimes I have too much, and then it's just more, slow down, take the match as it comes, and everyone's going to be nervous for the first few games, but you have to be, a rock and kind of just go through it and get through the match and stay stable. And I think that stuck with me the most, like just being able to stay one level and try and find, like always looking for what my opponent might not be great at. And, I guess coming back to the tennis IQ is figuring out now actually I figured out a way from talking to him to look down the other court and see what my opponent's doing that I could use to attack him or to put him under pressure. And I think that was one of the biggest things I took away from the hitting with him and what he said to me.
Sure. Is there a certain identity that you can say Australian tennis players have in terms of how they play?
With a lot of passion. Either way, good and bad. But you look at Kyrgios, he's passionate one way. You look at Demonar, you look at Johnny Millman. I mean, those guys are ferocious competitors. Even Leighton Hewitt, like he was considered a bad boy when he came out, and then now he's regarded as one of the greatest competitors in tennis and just someone who would never give up. And I think that is our identity as Australian tennis players, that we never give up. And what I tell myself is, if I get out on court, I don't want my opponent to play me. And I think that's something I cherish and try and bring out onto the court every time I play.
Sure. So once you got to the United States, I'm sure things have changed. What have you picked up from playing collegiate tennis in terms of how people play over here?
Mm-hmm. It's a different type of style of tennis because it's more of a team. Like when you're playing individually, like I've traveled by myself, it can kind of get a bit like you feel alone, but you're never alone when you're playing in collegiate tennis. Like you've always got your team to back you when you lose a point. It doesn't matter next point, like they're always lifting your energy. And just playing with that constant high energy, I really enjoyed, and I feel like I brought it into my game, and it's just helped me ever since then. But I mean, tennis is tennis, but the biggest difference I think is the team aspect to it, and I really enjoy it.
So you had part of a year under your belt. Obviously, you got to play in the fall. You had some success in the fall. You won that tournament with Joe, and then in the spring, you got a chance to play 4, 5, and 6 singles. So it was great for you as a freshman. But what do you think you'll bring into this next year that you might have picked up in the last couple months?
I think I just feel a whole lot more confident with my game. Just I put in the work over the summer, and I, I have confidence, and I just have a better understanding of who I am on court, and through the help of Tomic and what he said, and it's just been able to help me find an identity that I can go out there and play with. And now I have coach back, so he can kind of look at it and see what I'm doing, and a deep analysis. Like I think coach is a great strategical coach, and when I'm out there, like he can pick up on things that I might not be able to pick up on. So, and that's also what I'm learning from Coach Lucas as well, is how do I pick out these little things that I don't see yet. So I definitely think that.
Sure. So looking ahead to this season, you guys have had a lot of uncertainty in terms of what the schedule is going to look like, who you guys are playing. What are you looking forward to most in getting back on the court?
Getting back on the court. I mean, there's nothing else I'd want to do besides competing. I competed a little bit back home, but none of those tournaments, though I was using all those tournaments to kind of help shape my game. But here, there's something to play for, and, I want to get out there and win. I want to put a ring on my finger. I want to have a banner. I want to have a trophy or whatever. Like I want it. So I'm most excited to get out there and play.
So for
Yeah.
the people that don't know, obviously it's been a whirlwind couple weeks for you getting back and situated, the time change like we talked about. What has the last couple weeks been like? And the semester started too.
Oh, well, before I got here, it was just a big shambles of how do I even get here? I mean, there was so much uncertainty of what I need to leave. Like, do I need a COVID test? Do I need an exemption to leave Australia? And then there's the whole like what am I going to do when I get there? Like, what's the situation like in America? Like, is it going to be locked down? Is it not? There's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of stressful parts, but you just go through it and trust the process. And when I got here, it was pretty simple. I got into the room, self-isolated, waited for my test to come back, slept most of the time because I was just, I don't even know. How long was my layover? I think 20 hours, maybe even more, 24 hours. It's ridiculous, but you get through it, do the right things, and then you should be feeling fine within a week or less if you do it properly.
Yeah, what's that travel, experience like? So you're flying from Australia. What's your next stop before you get to the States?
Yeah, well, for this trip this year, I went from Brisbane to Sydney, which was fine, and then Sydney to LA, which is about 13, 14 hours, I think. So I arrived in LA at 5 a.m. Then I went to Houston at, at 10 o'clock, I think, and then I arrived at Jacksonville at 8 p.m. So very long day, just full of traveling and waiting around in airports, but you find ways to entertain yourself when you've traveled quite a
Hmm.
bit like I have.
So
And
what's the trick of the trade to make sure all your luggage gets with you? What do you bring? What do you not bring?
that's a tough one. That's a tough one, actually. We're allowed to bring two bags, and I didn't know. So I stuffed everything into one. That was a bit stressful. And then
Nice.
you've got the other stress. Yeah. You've got the other added stress of making sure your bags get there. And that I'm always asking when I get there, I'm like, do I have to pick up my bags? Do I not? Whatever. Like, it's very stressful at the airport, especially when you're doing these long distance travels and making sure your bags don't get lost. That probably can be one of the worst things if your bag gets lost, because then you have to wait and you don't know where it is. And um, I don't know, just asking lots of questions. Like, don't be afraid, get up there. If there's anything that you're uncertain about, just get up and ask. Like, it's not going to hurt you. They're there to help you. And yeah, I guess just voice your concerns.
Yeah, just hope things aren't delayed and things aren't lost, right?
Oh
That's
yeah,
the key at the end
that's
of the day.
that's the key. Yeah.
Yeah. Any important like snacks or things that you bring on the plane to help the flight go a little quicker?
No, I mean, I'm a tall guy, so it's hard to sleep on the planes, but these planes were empty because of COVID. So
Yeah.
I got to sprawl around the three seats that I had. So I actually got to sleep finally. Usually, I think that's why my jet lag wasn't that bad this time coming, because I got to actually get uh, plenty of sleep. But I know times before when I've traveled, like, it's just very compact. And, I think a very good neck pillow has to be number one that I take. Like, if you don't have that, then you just feel awful trying to sleep on the planes.
Yeah, that's probably an old trick for you with all the traveling that you do in
Yeah.
junior tennis and whatnot, right? I mean,
Hmm.
you have it down pat by now, right? So,
Yes, sir.
so yeah, we know you're a biology student, so that's another part of your day that you've got to factor in. Any goals with that, or how's that balancing biology classes with tennis?
Um, First semester is a bit tough. I think just figuring out like how to organize myself and whatever. But now I have a bit of a system, and it's just staying on top of things. Like, it's class, go to it. Make sure you're doing the homework, make sure you're doing this and that, and like you get tennis done in the morning, and then it's just okay. What do I need to do for class? Get that done, and then if you do everything on the right schedule, which we're all human, we're probably not going to, but if you can stick to a schedule, just go and do it. And I don't think I've had a problem since then. Just stay organized, stay on top of it. And it's hard when you're playing, when you're an athlete and a student, like, you don't have much time to mess around, so you have to kind of stay on this narrow path. So I think that helps as well.
Sure. What's the first couple experiences training been like since you got back here in the States?
um First couple was okay. I didn't play, maybe over Christmas. I didn't play that much, just to give my body a rest, because I played quite a lot when I was back home. But it's good to have the other guys, the new guys that came in, and training with them. And we had a training session today, and we played some sets, and it just felt good. I mean, we all had something to work on, and it wasn't going to be perfect, but I thought it was pretty good, and I'm enjoying myself, so it's fun. It'll get better as we go on.
Yeah, and tennis is better than no tennis right now, so I'm sure that's shared by everybody. But yeah, so this interview will go out right before you guys start playing again. I've got tennis starting up a big match against Florida State, and so looking forward to that and seeing you on the court. Anything you want to leave with, PJ?
No, I just wish our team luck, and I know we can do it. I know Coach believes in us, and I want to take the next step with my tennis and with the school's tennis. So hopefully we can bring this school another championship. And yeah, let's just do it.
Yeah, you guys had a great start last year, Eaton 2, and a lot of returners, so it'll be fun. Thanks for coming on, PJ.
No problem. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Talon Talk. Find the complete archive along with feature articles on UNFospreys.com by going to Fans and Talon Talk podcast series under the Multimedia tab.